Hello, thanks to the other amazing readers that came before and that will come after. So you have options. And the host, of course, and the space, and you. You have options. I can either read the influence and the sort of framing stuff before, which will then frame what you hear after, or I can read my stuff and then you can have it framed retroactively. I don't know, does anyone... Retroactively? Okay, great.
Retroactive framery. Like your necklace. It's awesome.
It's for Brittany. Okay, and apologies if you've heard this before. Poem beginning with a line by Allen Ginsberg. And I, an ignorant girl of family silence, on the thin pedestal of my legs in the bathroom. That's the line from Allen Ginsberg. Museum of Austin, a piteous day in 1915. Floods flash and water swirls, killing humans and livestock. My eyes flashed in the night, and I exceeded my boundaries. In the master plan, this fury will call for a master plan, a vigorous pursuit of funding and tunnels, Z Creek, unwelcome place, trash litters, flood-prone waters, bridge low beneath the shelter take, and most buildings near the creek face coldly away from it. As I face coldly away from my stewards, unique in that no man has given me the right to harness my horses with violet and peacock feathers. Only the most delicate and hardened feet may tread on the surface near my perennial waters. If this is you, but you do not recognize yourself, rejoice, magnificent baby. You have smashed my continuum. The drawing rooms of one of the most magnificent private residences in Austin are a blaze of lights. Of course this belongs to my brother Apollo. Was that thunder I heard? Surely a collision, or carriages lining the street in front, and an unspoiled harmonious wilderness within a cave, the son of Zeus and Maya, eldest of the Pleiades. You have to understand that family silence brackets family speech. Growth requires tricks, tricksters check merchants, wandering moonheads as if on the banks of the Seine, walking their lobsters, or whatever strand of the Peloponnese, where I first learned the names Inanna and Shahrazad, and richer trust was, the curls of the creek and their roots, dissipated stream energy, and in this way, I am of the nothing, and I applied myself to the study of nothing, and the pursuit of nothing, and being nothing had no proper home, except the riverbank below the underpass, shaded from the violent rays of my brother Apollo, and even the buildings turned, especially the buildings, away from me because I shunned society and lived in a cave on a mountain, existing solely in my fantasies and my fictions. Or perhaps it was Mount Bonnell or Mount Davidson. Was this Arcadia? But the lights in the A had gone out. No, had been stolen, and for 2 years I got by in Arcadia. I made time with seers. Lacking foresight, I touched snakes. I suffered sedimentation and runoff and erosion, but unendurable is still a word that may be announced. As theft begets theft, try again. In the spirit of mythology's trickster archetype, humbug. What I'm trying to say is that I stole the A from Oakland, and here are my terms for its safe return. That's the first thing. Don't get excited. No, just kidding, you can be excited. Alrighty. Everybody's going so short, I think I'm going to... Okay, so these are... the title of this set of poems is Rules for the Direction of, because I've been obsessed with Descartes for a year. Don't ask me why, ask me after or something. But he has this book called Rules for the Direction of the Mind, and I feel like, since we're living in such a dissolve the dualities, man, like mind, body, one flowing into the other. But you can't say like rules for the direction of mind, body, or like soul, body. Well, I guess you could. So I just have rules for the direction of, and then you can fill in your own blank. Rule 1 for Dave End is a question. What is true and sound and mind, and what comes before it? Epigenetic influences of recent relations, or the rips and stains in my hand-me-down genes. A blot of mustard cannot be the idea sign of the passions. So begin with blown out knee, tight blue phrased to white, over whitish pink, and dark stems rising. In a flat of mason jars, I muddle the sciences with bodily aptitude and practice. What is the valley spirit? My neighbors turn their hands to farming, harp playing. My neck succeeds at what other parts have failed at. We are comrades, not judges, left our decades at home. You can lean on something and still hear applause, the clatter of the blinds, dry leaves scraping the asphalt. Who would borrow the wind, put it in her accordion? I want us all to take a breath, and I scratch my hairy foot, vagabonding or voguing our way through this text. I'm underwater, over the moon. I put my hairy fingers to the stops and keys. Why do these sound like the words of a wounded psyche, which at first glance seemed of little use or interest? I want to topple the logic that calls the human cost soft. Dream a beam of light bent by water. We, beach babes, backless with a view to laughter, giving the ocean its chop. I'm doing okay on time?
More.
Okay, good. This is rule 2 for Gina degrees. I was kind of hoping that like somebody that I dedicated to would be here, but I didn't invite them, so. I was traveling down a transect, working my gap, where only those objects called food and drink, our tongues, our spit, pass. At what page did my family stop reading because I took the book back? Circling around the facts, I'm a bird you show up for. What touches back? Where bones have rubbed together, but the tongue is left in place. In the early evening light, near Solstice, Oakland, her friends danced around each other's fragile hyoid bones, inventing or discerning or rediscovering, better to say practicing, forms of being towards each other. You deserve a moment, a forkful of origin, without having to be able to distinguish what is true from what is false. The root that presents itself as something to cling to, take part of me, and nourish your existence with it, I. Rule 3, for Dominika Bednarska. Where are the final offices where you can submit the final forms to the last bureaucrat? And on your way, a hard-learned method, leave paper behind you. Exit hands, exit voice, not through loss, but righteous hindsight. Helena Jans van der Stroom, servant to the bookseller, mother to the dead, lover to reason's zombie body. If you left papers, where did you hide them? You still survived time by hitching a ride, a parasite in the margins of letters. And what do you say to the PSAs aimed at the young masters, with women posited only in relation? No single stall we can all fit in. The idea was to drain the marsh and farm there, build a bar and mill and church. Is this still a sound-founding concept if we amend it? A living documentation, now become the inquisitors, and if the door is open, I don't need your help, I can do it myself, after we have come together to build a zone where we may do it ourselves. And then we'll go back to the beginning. So, I wrote a little thing. It's like personal and like schmaltzy, but can I be both? I asked myself this question frequently when I was younger. Oh, this is the influence part. Can I be a writer and a transgender woman? Some folks might raise an eyebrow at this question, as if to ask in response, can you pick up a pen? Can you open a new Word document and start writing? Or more to the point, why would being transgender, or insert whatever blank you have here, have anything to do with being a writer? If you think about the fact that many of us go through school learning about the history of literature all the way back to, say, Gilgamesh or the Odyssey, and it seems to be all cisgender people, and mostly men at that, can you really blame me for wondering if it's possible? I couldn't stop writing, and I couldn't stop being a woman, and working towards getting the rest of the world to see and honor that fact. So at a certain point, I started to put that question to the side. Still, I wanted a literary godmother. I wanted to know that someone like me had lived and written books that changed people. I wanted a sense of history. One of the writers who has given me that gift is Trish Salah, author of Wanting in Arabic, and the forthcoming lyric Sexology. I think it's been forthcoming for like 10 years though, so don't hold your breath. to your life. If you know me, you might know that my dad is a classicist, but like 5 people know me. So hey, my dad's a classicist. So when Greco-Roman mythology pops up in my poetry, it's not just from the long history of illusion in literature, it's also a nod to my family. When I was a kid, my dad read to me from the D'Aulaire Book of Greek Myths. Did anybody else read that as a kid? Yeah, it's so pretty, right? Which, if you haven't seen it, it has fabulous illustrations. I always identified with young Hermes, who the D'Aulaire's cast as a cheeky little shitbird, stealing the cattle of the sun from his older brother, but getting off scot-free because he invented the lyre. Okay, maybe I didn't so much identify with him, but being outwardly a well-behaved child, but I aspired to his insouciance. Fast forward a few years, and I'm still glancing back at some of those same sources, except now with my attention turned to figures like Tiresias, the mythical prophet who was transformed into a woman for 7 years. Imagine my surprise when I found Trish Salah, having made these same moves, and in 2002. Sometimes you want a handbook for living in this world, or figuring out how to stay alive in this world without compromise, and sometimes you want to read another person's melange of memory, exile, desire, and embodiment. Wanting in Arabic has certainly functioned as both for me. I would be remiss if I relegated Salah to the category of being a purely identity-based writer. There are many things happening in Wanting in Arabic. On the formal level, as she plays with ghazal, or no, it's ghazal, right? Ghazal? Yeah, somebody stop me. The poetic form? Okay. HD-esque couplets and her own vers libre. As well as on the conceptual level, she treats gender, sexuality, her Lebanese heritage, and an associated array of affects, analyses, and visions, like Tiresias. So I'm just going to end with a poem from her. Tiresias' Confession, in the snow. White is the color of the icebox, and the drunkard's confessional, the urinal, a cool analytic. Making up scenes, white is endless, as in love, as in what lies under. This room, too. Figure it on a couch, at the analyst's. I kid myself, thinking this is over. In 97, you are off farming. My obsession is benign. Is love, is a gift, is not a mortal sin, not a demand, not an obsession, not a destruction, will not result in ruin. In ruin, we are all to come to, out among the innumerable future weddings pictured in the Sebastopol graveyard, looking at the ceiling go icy to think of it. Tombstone impotent, even before the hormones. And this chemical castration is at least a guarantee against rape. Was that ever a threat? No, I don't think so. Though every pill conceals a city full of open windows. Premonition, any possible windows fall, sounds a future found. The things you learn about snakes, eh? Wanting to be the beloved, wanting to woo the beloved for the rival, to be the beloved of the rival, to fix the vectors of that triangle, forever, angling obliquely toward survival, laterally against playing judge, jury, and executioner for all my sex. Which sex? Who wins? Not the sex of imposture, a cool analytic, pissing distance, from our little comic mask, how like a boy to take the long view. Thank you.